Y'all smell that? It smells like a scrapper. Hello everyone, and welcome back to another Guild Wars 2 video. It's yet another build video, and I think this is build number 43. I went back and I looked at my build playlist, and we are taking a second look at the scrapper. I have another build video titled, I believe it's called, wait, I totally forgot what it was called. I just had it in my mind. That's awkward. Was it like Iron Bulwark? Iron Skin? So I feel like it was Iron something. Anyway, today I have another Scrapper build for you since Scrapper was recently, I don't want to say overhauled, but it had some significant changes just to bring it more into line like a tank. I don't know. That was their summary of their decision. I don't know what I'm going to name this build yet. I typically figure out the name once I create the title and the thumbnail. But we are in lovely Maguma Jungle because supposedly this is where Scrappers were supposed to originate from with the launch of Heart of Thorns. Remember when everyone was like, but it doesn't fit the lore? And then they were just like, yeah, they improvised, literally. But welcome back, everyone. Let me jump right into this. We'll click later for that. So right off the bat, I want to say that this is another variation on a tanking scrapper. And I really want to use this in raids, and I don't think it'll be that bad. Granted, tank chronomancers, chronomancers who can give off boons are superior in almost every way, for the sole purpose that they can give boons and also increase the duration of boons. However, if you want to play another tanky character in raids against a boss who scales off a toughness, or just play an open world PvE for an easier time, this is the build for you. So we're gonna open and first look at some equipment. Right off the bat, I would like to say that I'm not completely done with the equipment. I spent all day trying to get as many pieces together to realize this build as many as I could. But there's a couple pieces that are missing, and I will go into detail once I'm done. Specifically runes. I haven't decided on runes and sigils. It'll probably be a tanking one with boon duration and applying boons and concentration, that stuff. You can fiddle around with that. This is just like the bread and butter. Anyway, so we have a soldier's power, toughness, vitality helmet, and I'm going to get my shoulders and my chest ascended berserker because I want some damage because it interacts with some traits. My gloves, my pants, and my shoes, I believe are called Wanderers, with power, vitality, main stat, toughness, concentration, minor stats. I wanted this for the concentration in part, so I could give out, or when I give out some boons, I will, they'll last a bit longer. And also, boons I grant to myself will last longer. My hammer, I want to get an ascended berserker hammer because I still think damage is important. I'm building this very brawler bunker oriented, but you know, even out in the open world, you want to have some source of damage so you don't like go insane. Let me store the data so we just don't like snoop in on anyone's map chats. Back item, I'm still slightly debating what I want for the back item. I might go Wanderers, or I might go Soldiers or Berserkers. Those are the three stat types that I'm playing around with on this build. Next, we have our accessories. I am running Soldiers. I believe it's Soldiers. I'm sorry if I'm using the wrong name, but it's the power, toughness, vitality main stat. I'm going to get another one for my second accessory slot. Now, moving over to the amulet, I'm using Wanderers for the power, vitality, toughness, and concentration. Next, for the rings, I am using, I believe it's Soldiers. Power, toughness, vitality. You get the stitch. Additionally, you might be wondering, oh, why are you building into some vitality? Why not full toughness? Well, I'm glad you asked, because now we get to go straight into the build. With the recent change to the scrapper, I'm sorry if this is like let me move this a little bit so we can just like see. But I also want to get my character in it. Anyway, I digress. With the recent change to Scrapper, their minor trait, so this means you can't select it. It's just by default. You have reduced vitality by 300. However, you get some barrier on your attacks. It was weird reading that they're trying to make this more of a tanky bunker elite specialization, yet they go and reduce the vitality. However, I think it's smart for balance because you can get a lot of barrier on this build and you would be unkillable in PvP. So, yeah. So that's why I'm also building into some vitality on my gear. Now it's time to look at the specialization lines that I'm decided to take. I'm taking explosives, not explosions, alchemy, and scrapper. For explosives, I'm taking blasting zone. Your power is increased baseline. It's nice. But I also like that your blast finishers grant might. And it's not only to you, but to allies around you. I didn't even realize. With my current concentration, which isn't too high, it's 25.25 seconds for one stack of might. But you could probably burst this out quite a lot if you choose to take some blast finishers. Wow. That's kind of impressive. Anyway, I digress. Next, I'm taking Big Boomer. Gain vitality and ferocity based on your power. This is another trait that I'm focused on, and is the reason why I'm also considering power, so I get more vitality to compensate for impact savant's change, and also just to gain a little bit more ferocity. And finally, for my Grandmaster, I'm taking Minesweeper, so I can dodge. Typically, as a tank, you want to be careful with your health and reduce as much damage as possible. Granted, with a barrier, you don't have to dodge as much, but if you find yourself in the circumstance, I think Minesweeper is a wonderful trait. And pretty powerful. Like, you get some vulnerability. It's nice. Next specialization line I've decided to take is Alchemy. Now, I don't believe this was changed from my previous build all that much, but I've decided to take Protection Injection. I think that's just such a fun little rhyme. You gain protection when you are disabled. Now, your main goal is to hopefully not be disabled. However, considering the other traits, it's just kind of like, meh. I think the protection's nice to increase tankiness. I will say, Invigorating Speed has its merit, because when you gain swiftness, you also gain vigor, so you can dodge more if need be. But I think this is just like, I just like taking it. You can, of course, change it around if you'd like. For the Master tier, I'm taking Emergency Elixir. Drink an Elixir E when you are struck while below the health threshold of 33%. This gives you barrier and extra protection. This is just a nice passive, so in case you find yourself in a near-death situation, you'll just pop this, and then 40 seconds later, it'll be off cooldown. And finally, I've decided to take Iron Blooded, reduced physical and condition damage for each boon you have. And you can get quite a few boons with Elixir B and Toss Elixir, while also keeping up Reconstruction Field and Defense Field, and overall just being around other players. I also will say that Purity of Purpose could be an interesting trait, since I am building into some concentration. But currently, in high-end rating, there aren't too many bosses that will pump out a whole lot of conditions with a wide variety of conditions. So you might not get amazing use out of this. If there happens to be a circumstance where, say, a boss is applying many different conditions and you are literally responsible for condi clearing, Purity of Purpose could be really nice, in conjunction with some other utility skills that will cleanse conditions from allies. And finally, we have the elite specialization of the Scrapper. Now, I'll get to it, never mind. So for the minor, I'm taking Mass Momentum, gain might while you have stability, and your function gyro applies stability to allies when cast. This is just nice to just keep might up on yourself. And if you need to use function gyro and allies happen to go down in a raid, in a fractal, or out in the open world, if you can stand on them, throw this, you will gain some stability. You'll start rezzing, other people will gain stability, so on and so forth. This is where, in the master tier, I think that there can be some decision making. Object in motion. I'm currently running this just for open world PvE and also to do more damage, but I could see this being a overall nice thing to have even in raiding, just to keep doing more damage. Object in motion. Deal increased damage while you have stability, swiftness, or super speed. This damage increase compounds for each boon you have. So if you have all three, I believe you're going to get 15% increased damage. I like this. It's just more damage. However, I also think damage dampener is I really personally love this trait as a defensive trait. A percentage of all strike damage you take is delivered after a delay. So instead of taking the full hit, you'll take 77% of the damage up front. But then 2 seconds later, you'll take a smaller packet to complete the total. So overall, it gives you a little bit more of a window to apply heals and for allies to heal you if you find yourself in a circumstance where that is needed. I really love this. And I think if you happen to be in a situation where there's just insane damage dampener could be a nice go-to trait. However, object in motion I just find to be really, really nice. And finally, for the Grandmaster, I'm taking adaptive armor. Barriers you receive are stronger. You reduce incoming condition damage while you have a barrier. Just a really nice defensive trait as well. You're gaining more shielding, and conditions won't do as much damage to you. I guess you could take kinetic stabilizers just to coincide with mass momentum, or applied force if you want to go full power. Actually, I didn't realize that applied force, this bottom line is actually quite nice for damage for a scrapper. So, scrapper, they might have wanted to be more tanky, but you have some damage options if you are interested in that type of playstyle. So I'm going to just leave this right up here. And now we're going to talk about weapons, tool belts, and utilities just for a little bit. Basic auto attack, the final hit is what you are really going for extra might and also vulnerability. Electro Whirl is nice for projectiles. Rocket Charge is great to use when in combo fields because it's a leap finisher. And when you leap, you give yourself super speed. But when you blast, you grant super speed to allies around you. Shock Shield is also one of my go-to defensive abilities, and overall I find to be really nice. You attack enemies in front of you. There's a motorcycle outside, I apologize. You attack enemies in front of you, and then each hit you will apply barrier to yourself, and with this trait, Adaptive Armor, the barrier is increased. If you can hit multiple enemies, you're going to get a whole lot of barrier. And I just really enjoy it. And finally, Thunderclap is nice for CC, extra vuln, and some damage. Let me talk about the tool belt skills. Everyone really pretty much knows the weapons and tool belts, but I'll just explain it a little bit more. Reconstruction Field, nice to keep up for extra protection, and also to blast in it with Rocket Charge to gain or to spread area of effect healing. Defense Field is nice to grant stability to you and allies around you, and it also blocks missiles, though in raiding, I don't know if there are a whole lot of projectile-based bosses, like Elementalist. I think that'd be cool. Maybe if you're fighting like Matthias, I don't know. But it doesn't reflect, it just blocks it, so. Spare Capacitor, this is nice just for some CC, and also to lay down a lightning field and to blast in it and whirl in it with a certain utility that I'm taking right now. More on that when we get to it. And then Toss Elixir B. You toss it and you will randomly grant one boon to allies standing within the area of effect. So right now, let me see what I get. Oh, gain some nice. You instantly grant stability and one other boon. That actually is really cool. I originally had read that as one of the 4 boons. Never mind. You're always granting stability, and you have the chance of 3 really decent boons. I guess swiftness is nice, but that retail, might, and fury are great choices. So overall, you have a 3/4 chance of getting a really nice boon. And finally, function gyro, the new change with the scrapper. It's nice. That's all I'm going to say about it. There is a lot of talk about the change to the function gyro on the F5 skill. I will say, it's such a small radius. I like the art, but it's such a small radius. I don't know. Does it make it bigger? I thought there was a trait that made it bigger. No. Never mind. Anyway, so there's a lot of talk about the function gyro. I'll leave it at that. And moving over to my utilities, I'm taking Medic Gyro, the Well, to keep myself up and also just to heal others. It also grants another water field. Bulwark Gyro! Bulwark Gyro! This is another staple for the tanking ability of the Scrapper. You gain so much barrier. It's so nice. Especially when you're around allies. If you just pop it by yourself, you'll end up gaining a little bit of barrier. It's nice. It's nothing too crazy. I mean, I got to like 6,000, but it starts depleting. But if you're around allies, it will get you to your half of your health bar, to the max barrier. It's fantastic. Next utility. This is where I suggest, or I will state, you have decisions. I'm currently taking Shredder Gyro in PvE just for some more damage. Also, the whirling can be nice. However, Blast Gyro is a blast field, and in conjunction with Blasting Zone, you gain extra might. And it's super speed to nearby allies, which is also pretty decent. However, CC also has its merit, and just some extra damage. Finally, I decided to take Elixir B for more boons on myself, and also to be able to toss it. It's nice. And finally, I am a self-proclaimed engineer noob. Not really noob. Not a noob, but not an expert. I'm kind of just tepid water when it comes to the engineer. But I've decided to take Supply Crate because it's a passive thing. So, Mortar Kit? I don't know. Maybe for Condi Clear. I could see Mortar Kit for Condi Clear. Sneak Gyro, it's not World versus World or PvP, so you can leave that. But yeah. That's my build. Now I'm going to head over to some gameplay and talk a little bit more about it, where I could see that the Scrapper shines, and also just explain some of my thought processes when I fight. So, over on to the gameplay. Welcome to the gameplay section. Now, you might have remembered what I said, that I don't expect this to be like so much better than the Chronomancer or even like a tanking Guardian. However, I think Scrapper has a very interesting and unique niche when it comes to tanking, and I like variation, so I couldn't resist. But I will say, if it was to be in a rating, if this build Scrapper was to be in a rating scenario, I think it would definitely benefit from having a Blood Scourge who pumps out a lot of barrier, considering its trait barriers you receive are 15% stronger and also reduce condition damage. But to accompany the Scourge, I would say a Firebrand or a Druid would probably also be awesome, because of the amount of boons it can pump out, and all that will affect the Grandmaster trait, which reduces damage and condition damage for each boon that you have on your character. So that was like my little quick thought bubble of how a Scrapper would be paired with some supports in a raiding scenario. But overall, what I do in open world is open world. For those of you who play Guild Wars 2, it's just the open world. It's not a huge deal in most scenarios. But I would like to still practice as much as I can. So when going into an event or going into a boss fight, I like to be right in front of the boss, trying to take some hits if need be. And also, I like to pop my Bulwark Gyro. Shout out to the Bulwark Gyro, probably one of your best skills as a tank scrapper. Try to use it around other allies, because using it around other allies will grant yourself more barrier. To kind of top this all off, because this video is running long, try to use your elixirs around others. Try to not be scared of standing in front of attacks when need be, or getting into enemies' faces. Shock shield is effective around multiple enemies, and don't forget about your fields. They are very important. Try to chain them in. Use your reconstructive field into a hammer 3, and try to do as many blasts and launches and whirls as you can. So thank you everyone for watching. I hope you enjoyed this little build. Like the video if you liked it. Comment below on your thoughts on this specific build, or any other tanky scrapper build that you might think about, or any other trait choices that you think would be better. And subscribe. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye everyone. Mwah.